everyone. I'm Heather. Welcome to another Homeschool Live presented by the Old Schoolhouse. Today, I will be interviewing Judy of Sonlight, who will be sharing about this popular and well-loved literature-based curriculum. We would both really appreciate it if you could take a minute right now and share this video so we can get it out to any homeschooler you may know, anybody that you might know considering homeschooling this fall. Just get it out there and share it with your friends. Please also during the interview, please comment, like, and ask questions, and we will definitely get to those. And now I'm really looking forward to introducing to you Judy. She is a retired homeschool teacher of 3 amazing students. She has spent over 20 years using literature-based learning with her own children and also sharing it across the US and Canada through her work with Sonlight. She has a passion for encouraging parents, young and old, as they navigate the journey of raising their children. She and her husband of 37 years have enjoyed the privilege of facilitating marriage and parenting classes as well. I am really looking forward to this interview. And before we start, I just want to share a video with you about Sonlight so everyone can get a feel for what we're about to talk about.
Sonlight is a Christ-centered, literature-based curriculum that includes everything you need to teach from preschool through high school. As the original literature-based homeschool curriculum, Sonlight has been helping families forge strong bonds and academic excellence for over 30 years, with a unique approach based on real books. Instead of replicating the school experience at home, a Sonlight education makes learning a joy and not a chore. Parents who thought they could never homeschool are delighted when they discover just how doable and effective Sonlight is. Literature-based homeschooling uses award-winning historical fiction, illustrated nonfiction, and gripping biographies as a centerpiece for learning. The Sonlight method provides both the context and the emotional connection that helps students grasp and retain history, science, vocabulary, and more. When you read well-written literature, historical figures become more than names. History becomes a personal experience, and your students' view of the world broadens. Even better, all of Sonlight's amazing books, subjects, and daily activities are scheduled for you in an instructor's guide. All you have to do is open and teach. The instructor's guides are structured enough to eliminate the need for lesson planning, but flexible enough to match your family's unique lifestyle. With Sonlight, you'll raise critical thinkers with a deep love for learning. As you study history together, you'll have many opportunities to discuss what you believe and why. It's an education without indoctrination. With Sonlight, your children will love to learn, and you'll love to teach. Guaranteed.
I love that. I love seeing the mom's face when the child went to go get a pot, like Johnny Appleseed, to put on his head. That was so cute. I love it. Hi, Judy. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So I am really curious. We have so many people considering homeschooling this fall, so many people who have maybe been homeschooling a few years, or they just started during the pandemic and they just don't know where to turn. There's so many different curriculum choices out there. And Sonlight, you've been around a while, and I'm really excited if you could just share with us, start at the beginning, tell us what Sonlight is, so our viewers can just get a feel for what this curriculum is about.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Excuse me. So Sonlight is actually about 31 years old this year. We are the original literature-based curriculum designed in the garage of John and Sarita Holtzman. And so they were part of a mission think tank and were interacting with folks who were overseas and realizing that they were having real issues finding educational options that worked for their kids. And so their goal was to be able to keep those individuals overseas for at least one more year. And so Sarita and her back fence neighbor got together and put together a curriculum program that they felt would be helpful for those who were overseas and needed educational options. That grew, obviously, over the years into what is now a full scope preschool through high school program. It is literature based, meaning that as opposed to using textbooks to teach a number of subjects like history and science and Bible and literature. We're going to instead use what are called living books. If you're familiar with Charlotte Mason, you've probably heard that term. So that's a collection of curated titles that have been thoroughly reviewed by us, historical fiction, biographies, fiction pieces centered around time periods in history. And so your children get to learn about historical figures, events that took place in history, all while using living books, because those books give context to those events and those characters, as opposed to memorizing dates and facts out of a textbook and then turning around and spitting them back on a multiple choice test and then forgetting them forever. When you present that knowledge in a story form, wrapped in a story, then your child makes an emotional connection with those characters. Those events kind of have anchors in their brain, so they hang on to that information. They retain it much, much longer. You can liken it to, think about what your favorite textbook was when you were in school. Can't say I can remember one. As opposed to, what was your favorite novel or book or series of books that you read when you were in school? And you probably could name quite a few. And so the whole idea being that we take that literature, we have developed an instructor's guide that has done all the work of planning for you. So you know each day what you're supposed to read, how much you're supposed to do, and all of the parts and pieces that go with that, whether it's language arts, creative writing assignments, whether it's phonics, teaching children how to read, science, complete science kits. So you have everything that you need to do, the experiments that are assigned. So it truly is a complete curriculum. And we believe that we have done the work of planning for a homeschool mom who is busy enough with teaching and still being a mom and being a wife, perhaps, and all of the things that go together with doing that, that she doesn't need the planning piece on her plate as well. And so we've made it a very easy to use, open and go kind of curriculum.
I'm just still stuck on the garage. This couple in their garage creating this, because there's so much involved in this curriculum. There's so many good books, and you saw in the video, the teacher's guide. It's just everything that, like you said, a homeschool mom could want. I mean, so much work went into that. And the fact that it was created initially for missionaries is incredible. I think that's so awesome. Our family was on the mission field for 1 year. And when we were there, I scrapped the curriculum that we were using and used a lot of those YWAM books. And I saw in the video that, I don't know if those are used often, but I saw at least one in there because, we were focusing on different missionaries. And so I just love that there's that missions aspect, because not everybody can go in the mission field. But if a lot of the books that you have, take them, around the world with other missionaries, or even just visiting other countries through these books, I think that will encourage a lot of parents who, have that heart for mission, or they know their kids have that heart for missions, that, this is exactly what they would want or need.
Yes, absolutely.
So you kind of touched on this, because my next question is if you could share how Sonlight helps homeschooling families. I mean, obviously that is the whole essence of this curriculum, but could you go through, let's say somebody buys this today, how would they use this the first week of their homeschool?
So Sonlight actually provides direction as well as a schedule and teaching notes and all of the resources that you would need to teach your children. So you will find, number one, in that instructor's guide, there's going to be an introduction piece that talks you through all the aspects of using the guide, some different ways that you might want to organize your materials. So the actual instructor's guide is kind of the glue that holds everything together. So that's probably the biggest piece that we offer that is that most helpful for homeschooling parents. But we also have support. So Sonlight Connections, which you can find on our website just by going to sonlight.com/connections. Sonlight Connections is that component that gives community to homeschooling parents. And certainly in the past year or so, community has become a really big deal as we have had to be isolated so much. And so not only do we have in-person groups, so you can meet with like-minded homeschoolers in your geographic area.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yes. Yep. So we facilitate those. We also have a more virtual version of community. We have a Facebook group, a private Facebook group called Connections, where you can meet with other like-minded homeschooling families. And we also have a specific private homeschooling group for brand new to homeschooling Sonlighters, as we like to call them. And that group has the benefit of a group of veteran Sonlight moms who we call our Sonlight mentors. And so they come alongside, they'll walk through that first year with you, providing support, not only if you have questions about using the curriculum itself, but there's a lot of transition, especially if you're going from some sort of classroom model of education to a homeschooling model. And so they're there to offer encouragement and support for that. We also have a team of homeschool advisors. These are also all veteran Sonlight moms who have homeschooled their kids with Sonlight, and they are available by way of our website. You can live chat with them. You can talk to them on the phone, email with them, and they're there to help people choose the best Sonlight plan for your student, and also to come alongside as you use. So they're there to help you with choosing and using of the curriculum material.
I love that. You know, when people first start homeschooling, that's what they're looking for, community, because it's a big decision, you know, especially if they're, you know, whether they're starting with their kids, you know, in preschool, or if they're pulling their kids out of public school, we need community. And I think a lot of times when we first start looking for this community, sometimes it's moms that just want to hang out and relax and don't necessarily want to talk curriculum. I know it sounds crazy because most people do want to talk curriculum, but I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to say, but sometimes they just want to relax. But having specific people like the mentors that you have is incredible, that you offer that resource, because that's what their ministry is. That's what they're there for. And that's what a lot of homeschoolers are looking for. So I think that is incredible that you offer that service.
Well, it's very popular.
I would love to know if...
Go ahead.
Oh, good. And I'm sure. I was just back to starting with Sonlight. You have everything laid out for you. And we had one comment. Somebody said, I love this all-in-one approach, because that's definitely very attractive. Is it a 5-day schedule? If you wanted to make it a 4-day schedule, can you do that? Or is it like, how does the scheduling work?
So actually, we give you that option. We have a 4-day program for the majority of the levels that we carry until you get to high school. High school is a pretty robust program, and so it would be tough to kind of condense that all into a 4-day schedule, but you certainly have the flexibility to change that schedule up. So there is the option of a 5-day or a 4-day program.
That's great. So I would love to know if somebody's purchasing their year curriculum for their student and they see, oh, I have this book, or my child's already read this book. What would you suggest they do in that situation?
So that's actually a very common question, and certainly makes sense since we're a literature-based program. So we're not talking about just one textbook for history or one textbook for science. We're talking about a stack of books, basically. And so usually what we tell people is maybe twofold. Certainly you can purchase just our instructor's guide. There is no compulsion to have to purchase an entire package. You have the ability to purchase individual book titles or purchase just the instructor's guide, whatever is a better fit for your family. One thing to keep in mind that I always like to share is our instructor's guide schedule is based on certain editions of the books that we carry. Now, a lot of books only have one edition. They've never been republished or had anything added to them. So most of the time, that's not going to be problematic, say, if you go to the library to pick up a book. But sometimes there are some, especially classic children's literature, that has been republished. Perhaps they've added a foreword to the book, or the author has added some additional comments or whatever. So then what you're going to find is that the story hasn't changed at all, but a lot of times the page numbering will no longer match our schedule in our guide. So for a lot of people, that's not a big deal. For people who are box checkers, like I tend to be, then that page numbering being off may be kind of disconcerting. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Right.
The other thing I like to tell people is buying a package from us actually is a better deal because it is easier for us to package and ship a complete package as opposed to pulling individual titles. And so we offer a significant discount for our history Bible literature package and for our all subjects package. So I will often say to people, do the math, go through and price all the books plus the instructor's guide and whatever supplies you're going to get at a retail price. Then look at how many titles you have and consider how much you're going to save by breaking that package apart. Because when you break the package, you lose the discount. And so then you're going to be paying retail for every title in the package. So most of the time, it's a better financial decision to purchase the package, and then any duplicate titles you have, gift them to someone or sell them somewhere else, or whatever is easier for you. But you're still going to get a better deal by sticking with a package.
I like the idea of gifting it because if you really love the book and people are asking you, what's a good book for this age child, then there you go. You have an extra one to give them. Because if I read a book and I love it, I like to have an extra one to give to someone, but I'm a book person. So.
Me too.
What is your suggestion if you have multiple children? Is there a way that you would maybe read the same books with multiple children, or do you have different, schedules for each child?
So one of the biggest benefits of a literature-based program is the fact that books are not written to a single grade level or a single age. So for example, if you think of the classic Charlotte's Web, it's not written just to second graders, or it's not written only for 9-year-olds. And so what we tell people is if you have multiple children who are within 2-3 years in age of one another, you absolutely want to share it together, not only because it's easier on you as the parent teacher, you're only teaching one history program or one science program, but also because it develops a family bond when kids get to learn together, when they discuss the same titles and they're learning about the same characters and the same events that took place, or studying the same concepts in science, doing science experiments together. That really does cement a relationship between siblings, which sometimes, as most parents know, can be problematic if you have sibling rivalry going on. And so the benefit then is the ability to be able to share that. As far as the schedule goes, you don't have to really worry about a separate schedule for 3 children who are close in age studying the same time period. The book is going to be understood by each child. So let's say we're reading a historical fiction piece about George Washington in Valley Forge. And you probably will be able to read that story to all of your children, and they're all going to come away with something different. Just like if you're all watching a movie together, if you ever have family movie night, which we've done before, and when the movie's all done and you sit there and you talk about, what you liked most in the movie or what the most exciting part was, you're going to find that every child has a different opinion or something different that they remember. Reading a book is no different. When you read a book together, they're all going to come away with something different. And so you should expect that. You should not expect the same answers to the discussion questions. You shouldn't expect the same written piece for any writing assignments. But because of that closeness in age, they can absolutely learn together.
I love that. That's great. It gives them that community. It gives them the opportunity. I love that. So, are there tests in Sonlight? That was just something I was wondering. Or is it more discussion after you read the books?
So we talk about Sonlight as having two categories of subjects. We have couch subjects and we have table subjects. So table subjects would be more skill-based subjects like math and spelling. Those subjects are absolutely going to have tests because that's a condensed base of knowledge that a student needs to learn. And there are certain things they need to learn first before they can move on to learn other things. And so, yes, you're going to have definitely tests with those table subjects. Couch subjects, on the other hand, are those literature-based components of the program. So that's where we're talking about history and Bible and science, where you sit together on the couch and you read a story together and you have a conversation with your children. There is no need for testing there because you know what your children know because you have a conversation about it. And then as your children get older, not only do you have discussion, they also have to write about what they've read about. And at least in my opinion, if my student can write intelligently about a book they've just read, that demonstrates to me in a whole lot more detail what they know than a true false test or a multiple choice test ever will.
So I'm curious, just for our viewers to get an idea of the types of books that are included, do you have a favorite that you've read to your child or two?
Oh, it would be hard to narrow it down to just one or two.
I'm sure.
I remember one of our favorite books early on. We were studying world history, and we read a book called The Mystery of the Roman Ransom. And so it was set in ancient Rome, and it was indeed a mystery. And I remember us getting to the end of that book and my son saying, "That's it? Is there not more?" And so a lot of our favorite books came from our world
that's a good book.
studies. Yes, absolutely good book. There were some high school books that I thoroughly enjoyed as well, but I think The Mystery of the Roman Ransom sticks out. Red Sails to Capri was another favorite book that we had. Charlotte's Web, certainly I mentioned it before because it is a children's classic, but I love the story and it makes me cry every time I read it. So a lot of younger children's books that I can think of that absolutely strike a chord.
Love that. So we have a question from Patty. How do you use Sonlight with learning disabilities?
Excellent question. So actually, over the years, we have found just from listening to feedback from our customers that a literature-based approach to learning actually works very well with children who have learning challenges for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're not trying to keep up with a schedule so that you get through a textbook by the end of the year. and you end up feeling like you're constantly behind. With books as your base for your learning, you have a lot more flexibility because there's bound to be 2 books about George Washington or 3 books about Abraham Lincoln, not just one. And so you have the ability to say, you know what, this biography is taking us longer to read, so we're not going to get to this other book about George Washington. So you can set it aside without being concerned that your children now have this George Washington shaped hole in their education.
That's good.
The other thing that's very helpful is our reading material, our literature is divided into 2 categories: read alouds, which parents read to their children, and readers, which students read independently. Children with learning challenges often benefit from having literature read out loud to them. And so the fact that the literature that is the basis for our history study or our science study is read aloud really is beneficial for kids who struggle maybe with focus or retaining information for a long period of time. Also putting, as we mentioned before, that information in context of a story makes it easier for children to retain and hang on to.
So, well, we were just talking about learning disabilities, but I would love if you could explain what you see as one of the biggest challenges students as a whole face today.
I suspect there's more than one. But I think, especially over the past year and a half, I think kids have faced a large challenge in that the normality of their life has changed. Things are not the way they are every day. Kids thrive on routine. Most kids do. And getting up at a certain time in the morning and getting dressed and getting on the bus and going to school. I think that when that came to an end, I think that was a huge struggle for a lot of kids. I think kids struggled with learning as a result. Remote learning was not something that most children have had any experience with in the past. And so we found certainly that a lot of families were considering the option of homeschooling so that they could bring that education home, not because they didn't feel that their teachers were doing a good job, but the very fact that kids were having to learn by way of a computer screen was just making it very difficult. I can't quote specific studies off the top of my head, but I know over the course of the last year and a half, I have read a number of studies where there have been great concern raised about the education level of children, and have they lost a year because they did not have that face-to-face in classroom opportunity with their teacher. So I think just the big drift from normality is probably one of the biggest challenges I see for kids today.
Right. And I've seen that in my area too, parents coming in the library saying that even the school system isn't letting them come into the school because they're not at the correct grade level, or they're not letting them go to the grade level they're supposed to be in because they did fall behind so much. So now they're saying, what do? I can't put them in the school. I don't want to hold them back a grade. So homeschooling, though it may not have ever been an option before, it is an option now. So this is a perfect curriculum to introduce homeschooling to people. I mean, you could definitely take this. It sounds like you can take this curriculum, and if you need to adjust it to your needs, you can absolutely do that. But if you're the type of person that likes to have everything laid out for you, you have done that. And I think that is incredible. If you could give parents one piece of advice for their students, what would that be?
Something that's kind of been a theme running through my head this last year, as so many families have started homeschooling brand new, families who in the past would never have considered the option of homeschooling. I have just shared often that, this homeschooling thing really is more about the journey than it is the destination. And so it's absolutely a good idea to set goals for your kids. Not saying that's not important, but I think you do your students the best when you enjoy the journey with them. So in the moment, enjoy those books together. Enjoy the conversation that you have, the laughter or the tears. Maybe you pair some field trips with some of the history that you read. Take pictures and look back on those times as memories that can never be taken away. And just learn to live in the moment with your kids, because homeschooling really is a lifestyle. It's not just something that happens from 9 in the morning till noon or till 2 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday, and then it ends. Homeschooling becomes a lifestyle because you learn all the time. And really the gift that you are giving your children is the ability to learn how to learn. And so even when they leave your home, whether you homeschool through graduation or just for this year, hopefully you have been able to impart to them that love for learning and the ability to take that with them when they leave your home, so that when things come up and they have questions about things, they know how to go find the answers. And so I think that's probably the biggest gift you can give your kids.
That is really good advice. I love that. It is about the memories. Absolutely. And I used to get annoyed when people would say they grow up so fast, but I have to say it's so worth it to, spend time reading these books with your kids, because yes, they do grow up so fast.
Yes.
Now I would love, can you please share with us how we can get Sonlight? How can our viewers purchase your curriculum?
So the easiest way to learn about Sonlight is to go to sonlight.com. Our website is certainly chock full of details and information. One of the things that we offer people who have never tried Sonlight before and maybe have never even heard of literature-based learning is we have what's called Sonlight for free, kind of like a test drive. You know how when you go to buy a car, you get to take it out and try it before you spend that money? Well, we'll do the same thing for Sonlight. So we have a couple of appropriate books for different age ranges that we will send you, along with a little brochure that takes the schedule and the discussion questions for that book directly out of our teacher's guide, provides it for you along with an article about literature-based learning that gives some direction. You can actually try literature-based learning in your home for a couple of weeks to see if it's a good fit. And that does two things for you. Number one, if it's not a good fit, you have learned that without spending any money. If it is a good fit, then as you go to purchase that package, you know that that is money well spent, because that approach to learning seems to click with your kids. And as I mentioned before, we have a team of homeschool advisors. So if you get on our website and things just seem a little overwhelming because this is all brand new to you, you can absolutely talk to our advisors. There is no cost for that consultation, and they would be happy to answer your questions and help you to design an education plan for your kids.
I love that. That is incredible. That is a really awesome offering. So head over to sonlight.com if you are interested, if you just want to try it out, or if you just want to go all in right now, you've listened and you realize this is what I want, go for it. The school year's may be beginning soon. Well, thank you so much, Judy. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to share about Sonlight with us. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in. If you are interested in our current edition of the Old Schoolhouse magazine, or you want to make sure that you're in and have a subscription before the fall edition comes out, head over to grabissue.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.